What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm gonna be going over 5 things that I dislike about living here in Las Vegas. All right, so like I said, this video is gonna be going over 5 things that I dislike about living here in Las Vegas. And before we get into that, if you are new to the channel, be sure that you subscribe down below, that way you never miss out on another video, and be sure to hit the little notification bell as well. That way you get notified when I actually post a video, and then you never miss a new upload. So getting into this video, we're gonna be going over, like I said, the top 5 things that I dislike about living here. And before we actually jump into that, I just wanna say I do enjoy living in Las Vegas. This video is just a list of things that maybe you should consider when you're thinking about moving here. There's a few things that you may overlook, and I think it's always good to get the negatives of living somewhere. Although I think living here in Vegas, personally, there's a lot of positives that I really enjoy living here. So just jumping right into this video, the first thing that I really dislike about living here is just the fact that there is gambling everywhere you go. And I know a lot of you watching this video are gonna say that's obvious. You live in Las Vegas. Why would you live there if you don't like gambling? Get out, move, don't move there, stop bashing our city, blah, blah. Look, I am just somebody who, I don't gamble personally. I don't really necessarily hate the fact that it's everywhere, but I don't like the fact that it's everywhere. If I wanna go to the restaurant and sit down at the bar, I don't necessarily want a video poker machine in front of me. If I go in to get gas at the gas station, or I just run in to get a drink or a snack or to pay cash for gas, whatever it may be, I don't always want to necessarily be seeing slot machines everywhere I go. When I go to the grocery store and I go get groceries, I just do not necessarily want to be seeing slot machines everywhere I go. Now, I don't necessarily mind the fact that gambling is here. I'm well aware that gambling is here. If you don't know, this is Las Vegas, and you should be well aware that there is gambling here. It's just something that I'm not used to. I don't think I'm ever going to be used to it. And it's one of the main reasons why personally I would not want to raise a family here. I think environment plays a huge role, especially when a child is younger. You know, what they see constantly, what they're surrounded with, plays a huge role into the development of a person. And I don't care how good of a parent you are or any of that. Whenever you are surrounded by all of these type of things, the alcohol, the booze, the marijuana, the gambling, the prostitution, it rubs off on a person. Yes, you can parent that child all you want, but the fact of the matter is that there's just gambling everywhere, and it's one of the things that I dislike about living here in Vegas. The second thing that I really dislike is during the summers, mainly, you're gonna get a lot more wind. You're gonna get wind throughout the entire year, especially if you live in Henderson. There's a ton of wind down here constantly, but during the summer, especially when it gets to be above 105, 110 like it is currently today, when the wind blows, it is hot. So it's like a hot, brutal wind. It almost feels like somebody is taking like a leaf blower and just blowing it in your face. Or if you've ever stood in front of a dryer or opened up your oven or opened up your dishwasher and you just get hit with that hot heat. That's something that I just personally don't like about the summers. I don't necessarily hate it. It is what it is. I can tolerate it. Every single place you're gonna live has ups, it has downs, it has benefits, it has cons, it has pros. This is just one of the things that personally I don't like about living here. I could make a whole list of things I didn't like about living in California. I could make a whole list about things I didn't like about living in Florida. Again, the fact of the matter is that no place is perfect. This is, again, just something that I personally do not like about living here. The other thing that also comes with this wind is you're gonna get a lot of dust. It's gonna blow onto your car. You may have some dust storms. They're not super common at all by any means, but they do happen sometimes, especially if you go more towards Boulder City, you go towards the Hoover Dam. It's even windier over there, so you are gonna have more dust. And just being aware of that, you know, taking care of your vehicle, just washing it and doing proper maintenance and just getting all that dust off is something that's important. If you don't wear sunglasses when you're outside, sometimes when the wind blows, you may get some dust in your eyes. So I'd recommend, obviously when it's outside, it's daytime, it's super hot, the sun here is brutal. I would always recommend having your sunglasses on either way, just to protect your eyes. But just be aware when the wind blows, you may have some dust. that sometimes will get into your eye. Another thing that comes with this dry heat and the wind blowing, especially during the hotter time of the year, is some people do experience nosebleeds because of the dry air. So if you're somebody who's maybe coming from a more humid climate like Florida or somewhere in the Northeast, or maybe even like Texas, if you're somebody who's used to that and you come here and you have to get adjusted to that dry heat constantly blowing, you may experience nosebleeds at first. You do get used to it over time, but just be aware that that's something that can easily happen from the dry wind blowing. And the third thing, before we get into it, guys, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments related to the video, make sure you drop them down below. What are some things that you like about living here in Las Vegas? What are some things that you dislike? What are some concerns that you have about moving here? Drop them down in the comments. The third thing is gonna be the lack of greenery. So here in Henderson, we have a lot more parks. There is more trees. There's just more greenery overall here in Henderson, but throughout the entire city, just because obviously this is a desert, so this comes at no surprise, but there's not a lot of greenery. A lot of places do not have grass for the simple fact that the city a few years back incentivized people to actually remove their grass. They were paying people to just put rocks down, put fake grass, etc., so that we could conserve on some water. And it makes perfect sense because we live here in a desert and water is crucial, especially with Lake Mead, how it's been draining over the last 10, 20 years. It is significantly lower than where it used to be. And that is another alarming thing that I didn't even consider to put in here, which is something that I think a lot of people do overlook when they're considering moving here to Las Vegas, is lack of water. I understand that Lake Mead is where most of our water comes from. There's conservation in place, there's water recycling, I get it, but the fact of the matter is when you go to the Hoover Dam and you see the water line, you see how drastically it's dropped, it is quite a concern. I mean, I don't know how long the water is gonna last here. There's talks about doing a tunnel from the Pacific Ocean through California to refill Lake Mead. That was one of the projects, I think it was called the Pacific Project, that I was reading about, but it definitely is a valid concern when moving here. So that is a reason for the lack of greenery. You will see some grass in some places, some houses still will have the grass, but for the most part, you're not gonna actually have a lot of grass. Now, when you go to the parks, you will, but residential areas, it's not like I'm used to coming from Florida. In Florida, everything was green everywhere, and that's just because of the tropical climate. It's not something that I necessarily despise, because I do like the desert environment mixed with the greenery that we do have. I do enjoy it, but sometimes just seeing rocks all the time does start to get a little bit boring. It is nice to see different plants, different trees, and just that change up that you do get in some of the other states. The fourth thing that I would say is, I've covered this in a previous video and I did get a lot of comments from you guys saying the complete opposite, but my opinion is that this is not a great area to raise a family. Again, as I've talked about in the previous points, due to the gambling, the prostitution, just all of the things around here that are in the environment, I just personally don't think it's a great place to raise a family. The lack of greenery is another reason. You don't really have grass to have your kids play on typically. So that's something that I'm used to in Florida. Kids are always outside, they're in the grass, they're doing different things in their yards. So here that's not really as common. Yes, you can get fake grass, or yes, you can get real grass, but it's just really not practical, and it's not really the same as having a full backyard. In addition to that, the school systems here are not good. I know there's some of you who have said that the school systems are good in Henderson, they're good here and there. And I've even talked to a couple people I know who live here in my community who I've asked about the school systems, and they all tell me the same thing, that the school is just not good, period. Now, yes, you can always private school, yes, you can always homeschool, but the fact of the matter is that 95% of people are not actually gonna do that. 95% of people are gonna be going to a public school, and I believe we ranked 47 out of 50 for the public school system. So that's pretty bad when you look at it that way. Another factor is the teachers don't get paid very much here, and with the cost of living going up from more people moving in, it's gonna be very hard to actually get good teaching here and get good teachers here that actually want to work and are able to survive doing that occupation. So that would be just my tip number 4. Again, I don't have kids. I do not have a family, but this is just somewhere that personally I would not want to raise a family, and that's my choice, my decision. If you want to raise a child here, or you have raised a child here and they've turned out to be great, then hey, good for you. Great, I'm glad. Personally, I just wouldn't. And last but not least, this one is going to be the most obvious. That would just be the summer heat. Now, coming from Florida, I don't necessarily hate the heat. I'm used to the heat. And I definitely prefer the heat here compared to in Florida. In Florida, when it's 85 and humid, it feels way hotter to me than it does here currently on this 107, 108 degree day because of, again, the dry heat versus the humid heat. Now, by saying this, I am by no means telling you that it is not hot. It is still hot. It is still something you have to get used to with the wind and all those things and causing the nosebleeds. With it being as hot as it is out, it's not really practical to be able to go outside as much during the day. You want to try to limit your exposure during these really hot days. If you're gonna go to the pool, you're gonna go to the lake, okay, I get it. But besides that, like if you're just going for a walk or anything really outside, you do wanna try to limit your time. You wanna make sure you stay hydrated, because with the dry heat, it's different than the humid heat. When you're in Florida and you're hot, you know you're hot, you're sweating, you're drenched, you know, you have your body telling you that you're really hot. Here, you feel the heat, but because it is a dry heat, the minute you sweat, it starts to just evaporate almost instantly. So you don't necessarily feel the heat as much. And if you're not hydrated, you're not careful, you can get a heat stroke very easily here. People die every year from the heat here. It's not a huge number of people by any means that die from it, but it is something to be aware of. Make sure you always have water. Try to stay indoors during the daytime, especially during the really hot months. But besides that, the other 9 months of the year are great. If you want more information about the weather here, I did a video about that. Just click the card on the link, whichever side it's on. And that pretty much wraps up this video, guys. This is just, again, some things that I've thought about that I necessarily don't really like about living here. Like I said earlier in the video, every city has pros, every city has cons, everything has pluses and minuses and benefits and all these things. So no place that you're ever gonna live is gonna be perfect. But for me, I think Las Vegas comes pretty dang close, especially as a younger single male. If I was having a family, if I was maybe a little bit older, I know the healthcare system here is not the best, but a lot of people do choose to retire here because of the low state income taxes and just the desert lifestyle, the golf and the low cost of living, etc. But for me, it comes very, very close to being a perfect place to live for me at this point in my life. Again, that may change when I want to raise a family, when I want to start settling down, but for now, I like it here. These are just my top 5 reasons that I do not like living here in Las Vegas. And that pretty much wraps up this video. If you guys have any input about your experience living here in Las Vegas, drop a comment down below. If you have any questions about living here in Las Vegas, drop a comment down below. And that's it for this video, guys. If you liked it, make sure you click that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Click the little notification bell. That way you get notified. And I will see you in the next video.